This is ancient land, spiritual land, productive land, land forgotten by time. It has nurtured and housed generations. Always there has been a rhythm to the gentle rolling terrain. Always there has been a promise of rebirth and always a need to preserve and respect its rich heritage. During the early 1800s, when California was still part of Mexico, this quiet and picturesque land was known as Rancho Temescal.
This was all part of land grant, and I don't know how they survived, but they were hard workers. I think they raised cattle and sheep.
Livestock grazed here much as it did throughout the region. The only signs of development were the Catholic missions that began to appear up and down the coast.
And there was also a large Indian settlement population historically that inhabited the area. They used to create leather goods and basically live in the Temescal Canyon Valley.
When California was annexed by the United States in 1846, enterprising people began to travel west.
Another aspect is the Butterfield stagecoach, which was ridden from St. Louis and Memphis, and its final destination was San Francisco, but it stopped in the Temescal Canyon, actually on our site.
In 1858, the Butterfield stagecoach began transporting people with visions and dreams west to California. The route began in Tipton, Missouri, and ended in Northern California.
The history is live, it's here. Some of it may be unknown to us, but I think as we go along.
The first rail service came to the area in 1862, carrying passengers between San Diego and San Bernardino, over tracks that wound through the Temescal Valley. A steady flow of homesteaders continued to migrate into the Temescal Valley, bringing with them citrus seeds. Soon, small farms and ranches dotted the countryside, and the fertile, water-rich valley began to evolve from cattle and sheep grazing economy to horticulture. The citrus industry was born.
The rich history revolves around really the citrus industries and the marketing of the various citrus products, which I really didn't even know existed until I came out here.
Dealing with the citrus groves had a lot to do with the Sunkist Company, and for many years there was a tower with a work whistle on top of it.
Used to wake up with a Sunkist whistle blowing at 7 o'clock in the morning. Remember that?
Oh yes, it blew to get their workers to work. Many people didn't have alarm clocks, so they'd blow the whistle at different times to tell them it's time to come to work.
In the early 1950s, the Sunkist Lemon Products Division was by far the largest single employer in the entire area of Corona.
And as farm workers came to pick the sweet citrus fruit in this fertile valley, the population grew, businesses expanded, and Corona became home to people of diverse backgrounds.
When I was a young child, I would say the majority of Corona was Latino because of its farming history, but we also had a large, immigrant community.
A natural resource that made the land ideal for nurturing citrus groves was also the genesis of another local industry.
My grandfather purchased the land on which Dos Lagos is located in 1924. And his purpose in buying the land, I think, was to plant a citrus orchard, which he did, about 80 acres of the 500 and some acres.
The Weissel Industry Sand Company began mining silica sand for glass production on this site, aided by an abundant underground water supply that helped separate fine silica from the clay.
And the family, for many years, operated this facility until the 40s, at which time Owens, Illinois approached the family with the idea of them putting in a modern silica sand mining operation and using that, selling it to the glass manufacturers in Los Angeles.
In 1945, we negotiated with the Weissel Company. We built this plant and we had the dryers out here. We picked out about 23 acres in the west portion of his estate. And we started mining, and we were making about 50 tons an hour of sand.
The Owens, Illinois Company began large-scale silica mining operations. Soon, the plant sprawled on both sides of the Temescal Canyon Road, then known as Highway 71, running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
So when we come out here and engineered how much silica sand deposit we had, we estimated 99 years in this particular acreage. 1972, our deposit ran out.
It was kind of an eyesore after we left because they didn't clean up everything that was there, but I guess the people just dumped trash and stuff around.
The land sat abandoned for almost 30 years, leaving behind a colorful and productive past.
It had become, unfortunately, a local dump. People had begun for 20-odd years, dumping piles of trash, washing machines, cars, everything you could think of. But in spite of that condition, there was something special about it, something very beautiful about the movement of the land.
In early 1997, an enterprising young developer named Ali Sahabi was looking for a meaningful project. He turned to his mentor and friend, Dr. Edward Blakely, Dean of the USC School of Urban Planning, for advice.
I said to him, well, you have to find a place that needs you and where you can get the land and other things. You got to start small.
It was then that Ali Sahabi discovered an abandoned silicon mine and fell in love.
About 3 or 4 months later, he comes in with this huge set of maps, spreads them out on the table, and he says, I think I found a project. And I look at this, I said, how many acres is this? 530 or 40 acres. I said, that's not a project, that's a life's work.
I met Ali Sahabi about 12 years ago. You might have known him longer than that.
About the same time.
And heard about his project. Of course, it was just a thought then. He had a long way to go.
I looked at it, thought, boy, that's a difficult site to develop. But Ali looked at it with new eyes, fresh eyes, and looked at it for what it could be rather than what we were trying to transform it to be. And he took what we thought were the negative assets of the property, the two pits, and turned it into a positive vision for what it will be. And he was right and I was wrong. You know, I think I'm so close to Corona, being here all my life, born here, that I couldn't envision the values of real estate that someone, I think, from the outside could see.
And the fact that Ali Sahabi and Dos Lagos has taken this kind of a piece of land, and with a great deal of concern about the environment, a great deal of patience and concern, and I might add an enormous amount of money, they have turned a detriment into perhaps the nicest asset that we'll see around the city of Corona.
Today, the land has a new and promising future. It is being reclaimed, rejuvenated, and transformed into a master plan community of Dos Lagos, a place to live, work, and enjoy, with a healthy respect for the environment and a deep appreciation of this historic part of California's inland empire.
The Native Americans and the Mexicans, the Spaniards before that, and here we are today, Dos Lagos, a dream come true.